Guys, basically, you just need to be informed. Like they say, knowledge is power. So when it comes to stock markets, yes, indeed, knowledge really is power because you can never know so much. So it's actually really better to have vast knowledge than to actually not even know what you're doing. Now, things like GDP, inflation, interest rates, they have a major role to play. See, the stock market doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are a lot of factors, there are a lot of situations, there are just a whole lot of influences that actually affects the stock price. Before going into the stock markets, you need to be resilient, like the ability to just, I think if you're not into yoga, yes, before going into the stock markets, consider it's like try doing all of those breathing exercises because you're gonna need a whole lot because yeah, the stock markets is a whole lot. And as an individual, you have to be a whole lot to be able to handle what comes. Now, the third beginner must know before you get into stock markets or making that first stock investment is hello and welcome. This is Money Talk, where we take fancy financial lingos, break them down into simple everyday language so you stay informed, be financially smarter, and take control of your money more confidently. So in our last video, joining me in the studio was a beautiful and interesting guest who had something to say on stocks. So in our last video, we talked a bit on stocks, the basic of stocks, what they are, the types of stocks, risk involved, basic terminologies that you should be aware of, and how much you actually do need to start investing in stocks. And in today's video, we're still going to be building on stock. I'm going to be adding a little bit of layer to our understanding stock, to understanding the factors that actually drive stock performance. And quick disclaimer, guys, I need to put this disclaimer out there before I go on. While there are various factors to consider before actually making that first investment in stock markets, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be highlighting just 5 key factors that every beginner should know before investing. And please, let's be clear, I'm no financial advisor, neither am I a professional stock investor. Just think of me as, let me see, that voice that nudges you to go the extra research, ask questions, seek professional counsel or insights before actually getting into investments. And the goal of this is to actually help you as a person who is interested in going into the stock markets build a foundational knowledge. So when you do invest, it's based on insights really backed up by knowledge rather than hype. So all right, now that my disclaimer is gone, let's get right into it. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 beginner must know before actually making your first stock purchase. 5 beginner must know. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is stock selection and market timing. First, let me talk about stock selection. Now, stock selection is basically that moment when you decide the right company for you to invest in. Now, guys, do not buy a stock because everybody's talking about it. While usually, yes, when everybody's talking about it, going with the herd might actually be the right approach at the moment. But regardless, there's still a need for you to ask yourself critical, unbiased questions like, is this company profitable? Does this company have a growth potential? Does this company have a future-proof products and services that in the next 5 years would still be viable that I could actually invest in? So once that is out of the way and you figured out, okay, yes, I know this, then you can make your selection. And the next thing is market timing. We all know the stock market is volatile. However, there are numerous factors that could actually affect the stock market and affect your investments, really. So market timing is very, very crucial to stock investments. The ability to know when to buy, what to buy, or if to actually wait for it to dip, that's actually what makes a good, really, really good investor. And while market timing is majorly based on speculation, still it cannot be ignored. You need to be able to know when to buy and what you actually do want to buy. So the second thing I'm going to be talking about, the second must know that every beginner, that you as a beginner should have an idea of, is company fundamentals. Now, see, for every seasoned investors, there are questions and metrics that they ask the companies that they want to invest in. And for instance, questions like, what's the company earnings? And the purpose of this is actually to measure and analyze the profitability of that company. And another thing they ask is, okay, what's the company debt level? And basically, the idea behind these questions, the idea behind taking these metrics is actually to know how healthy this company you're about to throw in whatever amount it is. Okay, is this company healthy? Does this company have a future prospect in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, in the next 20 years? Would this company still be here? Now, there are a couple of companies out there right this moment who are currently doing great in their sales. They are really, really doing good. And this has actually affected their stock price positively, and their prices are on the rise. You can actually go on Google and do your research and figure these companies out, because for every company who has the ability to consistently increase their earning, then it's automatic that their stock price would always and always be on the rise. Now, the third beginner must know before you get into stock markets or making that first stock investment is economic indicators. Now, things like GDP, inflation, interest rates, they have a major role to play in the stock price. While GDP is all about economic expansion, and inflation is really all about the level of the price of goods and services. These two things, both GDP and inflation, they have something in common, and that's goods and services. So for every time the GDP is on the rise, the stock price is definitely going to be on the rise. And for every time the GDP is on the low, the stock price will definitely react in suits and in line with whatever the GDP says at the moment. So that's why it is very, very, very important that you as an individual, before you go into investing in a particular company, there's a need to actually research the economic situation of the country where that company is situated at the particular moments before you even decide, okay, yes, I'm going to put a dime or whatever dollars or naira or whatever equivalent currency you're willing to put into that company at that particular moment. Now, onto the fourth must know for every beginner before you make your first stock purchase is global events and government policies. See, the stock market doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are a lot of factors, there are a lot of situations, there are just a whole lot of influences that actually affects the stock price. So things like election, things like new tax reforms, things like government policies, things like fiscal policies, monetary policies, all of these things come together, wars, global pandemic, they come together to actually play a major role on what the stock price is going to be at that particular market. And they have the ability to change public acceptance and even move a sector overnight, guys. You can just go to bed and by the time you're up, the stock market has just gone wild and you don't even know how to tame it anymore. So it is very important that you stay knowledgeable, always be on the news. In our last video, I said something while I was interacting with my beautiful guest. I said, okay, so for everyone who's really interested in getting into stock markets, yes, you have to really get your stalker vibe on, because You always need to be on the know. You need to know what's happening globally. You need to know what's happening locally. You need to know what's happening in that company. You need to know if there's a new policy on the rise. Guys, basically, you just need to be informed. Like they say, knowledge is power. So when it comes to stock markets, yes, indeed, knowledge really is power, because you can never know so much. So it's actually really better to have vast knowledge than to actually not even know what you're doing. Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking about, the last beginner must know before making your first stock purchase, is emotional discipline. Now, this is probably the hardest thing to do, because it don't matter your research, it don't matter how much knowledge you've really acquired, or how many books you've read, or how many professional insights you've actually sought. Guys, nothing, I repeat, nothing would prepare you for the emotional roller coaster that the stock market is going to take you on. You're going to be tried. You walk through the fire. You walk under the rain. Your emotions would be shaking. You will be turned in and out. But the purpose of all this is you do not have to react. Usually when you try to react to what's happening, that's usually when most often you may make a decision, and at the end of the day, it's a miss. So the point is, try not to be led by fear or by greed. Just try to stay calm. There's a need to actually build your adaptability and resilience skill before going into the stock markets. You need to be resilient, like the ability to just, I think if you're not into yoga, yes, before going into the stock markets, consider it's like try doing all of those breathing exercises, because you're going to need a whole lot, because yeah, the stock markets is a whole lot. And as an individual, you have to be a whole lot to be able to handle what comes from the stock market. So there's a need to build emotional discipline. So that way you don't just move where the wind blows. Yes, it's true. Sometimes moving in a particular direction could actually be the smartest and safest move for you at that moment. But then other times, actually going this way when every fact staring right at you tells you to go this other way, that could actually be the big game changer for your investments. And before you know it, you're on the rise. So emotional discipline is very, very important if you're one looking to get into stock investment. So if you thought to yourself, okay, the stock market is something that I want to consider, it's something that I want to explore, please ask yourself basic critical questions. Do I understand this company? Do I understand how the global markets, how the local markets, do I understand how they can influence my investment? Because there's a particular very well-known company that we all know, and that company actually got affected due to new policies that actually affected EV manufacturers, and that company's stock actually felt the heat based off the policies that was made by these countries. So it is very important that you know how countries and global events can actually affect and influence the stock price, and by effects, affect your investment. So ask questions, guys. Seek out counsel, read books, go online, Google, look for mentors, those who have been in the business, in the game really for a long time, because the stock market is a mind game and you have to be ready. So just seek out knowledge from those who have been in it. Please, guys, everything I've said, go back and do your own research, because like I said, I am no seasoned professional investor. I'm here to give you that nudge you need to actually try investing in stock really, because it's volatile. But regardless of it, there are still factors that could influence and affect your investment. So if you've actually asked those questions and your answer is yes, then trust me, you're way ahead of so many new beginner investors, because most people don't even ask questions. Most people just feel like, oh yes, my friend told me about this, then I should jump into it. But then when you do ask questions, you get to reflect, you get to pause and actually make an informed decision that's backed by knowledge, substantial knowledge. So if you've enjoyed this video, click on the like button, like the video, share with everybody and anybody. Click on the subscribe bell so you get notified anytime and every time there's a new upload. And if you missed our last video on the basic of stocks, there'll be a link in the description below so you can click and go watch the previous video. My name is Ike Andrews, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.